The HOA called my wife's beautiful mural Graffiti and gave us 7 days to erase it or face daily fines. What they didn't know? That graffiti was the last piece she painted before losing her vision. She's not just a hobbyist, they were about to humiliate one of the country's most celebrated artists. But instead of erasing her legacy, I turned their walls into her canvas and their arrogance into our masterpiece. The last sunrise on our wall. I still remember the exact moment the sun peeked through our kitchen window and danced across the mural on the side of our house. Every morning it brought life to the colors, warmed our home, and, most importantly, sparked a light in my wife's dimming eyes. Her name is Elena, a painter with fingers dipped in stardust. But her brilliance isn't just in her strokes, it's in how she survived. 2 years ago, she was diagnosed with retinal dystrophy, a slow, cruel thief of sight. The doctors told us she had limited time before her vision would fade to black, so she made a promise to herself. Before I lose the light, I'll give it to others. And that's what she did. We lived in a quiet suburban neighborhood governed by an overly obsessive homeowners association, HOA. You know the type. Grass must be exactly 2.5 inches high, shutters must be neighborhood neutral, and heaven forbid your mailbox is slightly tilted. But we kept to ourselves, paid our dues, kept our lawn trimmed, never caused trouble. Then one morning, Elena began painting. The east-facing wall of our home, a blank canvas of gray siding, became her final stage. She painted from sunrise to sundown, pouring every drop of her heart into that mural. It wasn't graffiti, it was a tribute, a swirl of color and light, mountains in bloom, birds in mid-flight, a mother and daughter dancing barefoot in a field. It was joy. It was her soul, and it was her goodbye. I helped her when her hands trembled. I guided her when she struggled with the light. But she led every brushstroke. It took 3 weeks, and when she stepped back, I swear the mural breathed. Neighbors loved it, kids came to look, strangers took photos. Even the old man down the street who never smiled stood in silence, nodding in approval. But it didn't last long. HOA notice number 1. Unauthorized exterior alteration. It was a crisp Monday morning when the letter arrived. Thick envelope, red stamp, typical arrogance. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Lane, your exterior wall contains unauthorized artistic expression that violates HOA guidelines concerning uniform property appearance. You are hereby instructed to remove said graffiti within 7 days or face a fine of $200 per day. Graffiti? I read the letter 3 times. Elena sat at the kitchen table holding her tea, staring at nothing. She called it graffiti? Elena whispered. That's my daughter's dress. That's my mother's smile. I felt my hands tighten. I called the HOA office, spoke to Linda Craven, the HOA chair. Cold voice, colder soul. She can paint inside her home, Linda snapped, but exterior walls are subject to our community standards. I tried to explain. She's going blind. That mural, it's more than paint. But she didn't care. Rules were rules. I asked if we could appeal. She told me to take it to the next board meeting, that Friday. HOA board meeting, Friday, 6 p.m. The room smelled like stale coffee and smug superiority. 5 board members sat in a row like judges on a bad reality show. I stood in front of them, clutching photos of the mural. Elena stayed home. She didn't want to hear them call her art graffiti to her face. I gave them the backstory, her vision, her diagnosis, her final wish. I showed them how neighbors supported it. When I finished, there was silence. Then Linda said, "We appreciate your wife's creative journey, but rules are rules." The vote was unanimous. The mural must go. The flicker before the flame. I came home that night and told Elena everything. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just nodded, stood up, and walked to the wall. She ran her hands along the mural, her fingertips tracing each brushstroke like Braille. She whispered the names of the colors she used. "I won't paint again," she said softly. This was it. I couldn't sleep that night. I looked at the mural through the bedroom window, glowing faintly in the moonlight. I saw her legacy, and I saw what they wanted to erase. That's when I made a decision. If they wanted to call it graffiti, then maybe it was time to show them what real public art looks like. The canvas fights back. I didn't sleep at all that night. While Elena lay curled beside me, eyes closed but restless, I stared at the ceiling, counting the hours until morning. The HOA had given us 7 days to erase the mural. 7 days to destroy something that took a lifetime of memories, heartache, and courage to create. By sunrise, I had a plan. Step 1. Tell the world. That morning, I snapped a fresh set of high-quality photos of the mural. I captured the emotion in the lines, the joy in the color, the story it told. Elena stood beside it, still in her paint-stained overalls, gently touching the lower corner, her signature spot. Then I posted it on Facebook. This mural was painted by my wife, Elena, who's going blind. It's her last gift to the world before losing her sight. Our HOA just called it graffiti and gave us 7 days to erase it. Please share if you believe art should be protected, not punished. I didn't expect much, but by noon the post had 5,000 shares. By dinner, 50,000. By midnight, I was getting messages from news stations, art bloggers, and even teachers, asking if they could use Elena's mural in their classrooms. It went viral. Step 2. Unveil her truth. On day 2, I made another post. What the HOA doesn't know is that Elena isn't just my wife. She's also Elena Marquez Lane, winner of the National Arts and Culture Fellowship, whose work hangs in 3 major museums and has been featured on the cover of Canvas and Light magazine. And now, they want her to erase her final masterpiece. With that, I attached an old photo of her receiving the President's Medal for Community Arts, standing proudly beside her mother and our daughter. People were stunned. Elena Lane? I've taught her pieces in my AP Art History class. You're telling me the HOA called that mural graffiti? This is why HOAs are a problem. Bureaucrats with no heart. It was no longer about one mural. It had become a movement. Step 3. Call in the gallery. On day 3, I reached out to an old contact of Elena's, Kendra White, the director of a renowned contemporary gallery downtown. She came by our home within hours. When she saw the mural, she just stood in silence, hands clasped over her mouth. "She did this while going blind?" she whispered. "Yes. I want to show this, not in a frame. I want to show this wall. Bring people to it." "HOA won't allow it," I replied. "Then we make them allow it." Step 4. Legal brushstrokes. Kendra knew lawyers. Not the cold corporate kind, the passionate kind. Artists who became attorneys to protect expression and defend freedom. That same day, a lawyer named Amir Dumani joined us. He was tall, calm, and smiled like he already knew how this would end. "This isn't just a mural," he said. "This is protected expression. In some states, under the Visual Artists' Rights Act, it could be argued that forcibly destroying it is a violation of federal law." The HOA had no idea they were about to walk into a First Amendment hurricane. We sent them a formal cease and desist letter, citing Elena's public record, her awards, and the threat of legal consequences. Day 4. Protest on Pineberry Lane. By day 4, reporters had set up outside our cul-de-sac. Neighbors walked their dogs past our house, giving us thumbs up or soft claps. Kids wore paint-splattered shirts with Elena's wall printed on them. Someone even started a petition online, Save Elena's Mural, which had over 300,000 signatures by the end of the day. Then came the protest. Dozens of local artists, teachers, parents, and kids gathered outside our home holding signs like, "Graffiti, more like glory," "HOA can't erase love," "She gave us beauty, let her keep it." Elena watched from our living room window, tears running silently down her cheeks. Day 5. The HOA's cold call. At 9 a.m., the phone rang. It was Linda Craven, the HOA president. Her voice wasn't cold this time. It was shaky. We've received some complaints, she muttered. Our inbox is full. We've gotten messages from national news outlets, legal threats, and even a letter from the governor's office. We weren't aware of Mrs. Lane's background. I didn't speak. She continued. We're willing to reconsider. I smiled. It's too late for reconsideration. You owe her an apology, publicly. And you owe this community better leadership. She sighed. We'll discuss it at the emergency board meeting. Day 6. Building the legacy. The next morning, something incredible happened. Our neighbor from 3 houses down, Mr. Jasper, a quiet Vietnam vet, showed up at our door with a paintbrush and a bucket. I used to build murals with my unit, in the jungle. They told us it was stupid, but it kept us alive. He handed the brush to Elena. Keep going, he said. Don't let them steal your fire. And so, for the first time since completing her original piece, Elena picked up her brush again. She added a sunbeam, faint, delicate, stretching from the top corner like hope blooming out of shadow. Day 7. The storm and the statement. On the final day of the HOA's 7-day deadline, a local news van pulled into the cul-de-sac. The mural, now internationally known, had become a symbol. Reporters buzzed. Cameras clicked. A large white banner was unfurled across the lawn. We don't erase light. We celebrate it. The HOA board had no choice. At noon, in front of flashing cameras and angry neighbors, Linda Craven stood behind a microphone and read the following. After careful review and community feedback, the HOA has decided to formally withdraw all complaints and fines against Mr. and Mrs. Lane. The mural will remain. We apologize for any distress caused. No soul, no sincerity, but it didn't matter, because they had lost. And Elena's art had won, the portrait of power. The victory felt surreal. The mural stayed, the cameras left. Social media moved on, and life tried to return to normal. But something inside me had shifted. So had something inside Elena. The art world comes knocking. A week after the HOA formally retracted their complaint, we received a package, thick, heavy, and wrapped in gold-trimmed linen. Inside was a letter from the National Museum of Urban Expression. Mrs. Elena Lane, we would be honored to feature your mural in our 40th anniversary publication on American Street Art That Changed Policy. Your work has sparked national discourse and deserves to be remembered. I looked up at Elena. She was holding the letter with trembling fingers, her vision growing fainter every day, but her smile was blinding. It wasn't just about paint, she whispered. It was about being seen. The HOA tries to save face. Not long after, the HOA started issuing newsletters full of PR fluff. We proudly support neighborhood creativity. Pineberry Lane embraces artistic expression. Our board is open to mural proposals from residents. It was laughable. They had gone from paint police to pretend patrons of the arts. Even worse, they began hosting HOA Community Art Days, sham events with folding tables, budget watercolor sets, and smiley board members pretending to appreciate macaroni collages. But everyone knew the truth. They weren't changing, they were scrambling, trying to cover up what the world now saw, a group of small-minded enforcers who almost crushed beauty under bylaws. Elena's story reaches schools. Then something unexpected happened. A teacher from North Carolina emailed us. We're teaching a lesson on modern civil courage. Your wife's mural is now part of our curriculum. The kids call her the woman who painted back. It hit us both hard. Elena's strength, once hidden in brushstrokes, was now igniting strength in others. Students began sending us letters and handmade sketches inspired by her work. One said, "When I feel scared to speak, I draw. Your wife helped me feel brave." We hung every letter in the hallway beside the mural. Now it wasn't just a tribute to her fading sight. It was a monument to the voices she helped uncover. But peace didn't last forever. The HOA president, Linda Craven, was seething.
Hi. Oh my God.
While her public face stayed polished, her private moves grew nastier. We received 3 new anonymous complaints in a single week. One said Elena's mural attracts too much attention. Another claimed the paint smelled disruptive, whatever that meant. A third accused our garden lights of projecting dangerous shadows. All signed, "Concerned Neighbor." Except we knew the truth. We had a friend inside the HOA board now, Derek, a former Navy man who couldn't stomach injustice. He called me privately. "It's Linda. She's trying to bury you under paperwork now. But listen, there's a board election coming. I think you should run." I laughed at first. "Me? I'm not political, I'm just a teacher." "No," Derek said. "You're a fighter, and this neighborhood needs one." We didn't run a fancy campaign. No flyers, no yard signs, no door knocking. Instead, we placed a giant printout of the mural in our front yard. Below it was a sign that said, "Vote for the family who stood up when they were told to shut up." The response? Electric. People came by just to take photos. Teenagers on skateboards gave us thumbs up. Elderly couples nodded with quiet pride. Elena insisted on being there every day, even when her vision dimmed so much she couldn't see faces anymore. She'd sit in a lawn chair and smile as neighbors walked by. Linda wasn't quiet. She sent out mass emails calling me a disruptive influence. She tried to ban us from displaying the mural poster, citing visual pollution. But the community had seen too much truth to unsee it now. The night before the vote, Derek came by. "We're gonna win," he said. "We?" I smiled. He shrugged. "You stood up, I stood with you. That makes us a we." Election day. A different kind of canvas. The board meeting was packed. Folding chairs overflowed. Some stood in the back holding their kids or sipping thermoses. Linda stood behind the podium, all starch and steel. "I've served this community for 12 years. She was cut off by a voice in the back. "Too long!" Laughter rippled. Then it was my turn. I stood beside a life-sized photo of Elena's mural. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't throw stones. I simply said, "If you want an HOA that paints over pain, vote for her. But if you want one that lets people heal, express, and thrive, vote for me. Vote for all of us." The results. Landslide. Out of 176 eligible residents, 142 voted. 127 were for me. 15 for Linda. She resigned before the end of the night. And as for Elena, she stood beside me, hand on my arm, eyes clouded but heart full. "I can't see them," she said, "but I can feel them smiling." The final brushstroke. A new dawn for Pineberry Lane. Becoming the HOA president wasn't something I ever planned. But by the time I held that tiny office key in my hand, I realized this was never about leadership. It was about liberation. People didn't vote for me just to remove Linda. They voted for change, for art, for expression, for neighbors who didn't need to feel policed in their own homes. And I wasn't about to let them down. My first order of business. The first motion I introduced? The Pineberry Expression Act. It banned any HOA restrictions on personal art that wasn't offensive or vulgar, and it allowed residents to decorate visible areas of their property with murals, sculptures, or even creative landscaping. We held an open vote. Unanimous. Even the two remaining Old Guard board members caved to the crowd's cheers. Elena couldn't see the faces in the room that night, but she heard the clapping, loud and long, echoing like a heartbeat down the hallway. "I can't believe it," she whispered to me. "You started all this," I said, with a brush and a memory. The art festival that changed everything. 2 months later, Elena had another idea. What if we host an art festival? Not just paintings, but photography, music, everything. Let people show who they really are. We called it the Canvas of Pineberry. I worried at first, would anyone even come? We were wrong to worry. Over 400 people came from nearby neighborhoods. School kids chalked the sidewalks. A local jazz band performed on the clubhouse lawn. Elderly neighbors opened their garages as pop-up galleries. And Elena? She was the guest of honor. She sat in a rose-lined chair on the stage, holding my hand and smiling, even though her eyes were nearly dark now. When the mayor handed her a Community Arts Courage Award, she simply said, "I painted one wall. But all of you painted a neighborhood." A voice that carried media came again, not for controversy, but for celebration. We had become the model for how a community could turn suppression into expression. Elena's story was now a TED Talk. A nonprofit reached out to create a grant in her name for young artists with disabilities. Even former HOA critics had softened. Mr. Cranford, the man who once called our mural visual noise, came by one afternoon. He brought flowers. "I lost my wife 3 years ago," he said. "I didn't understand what that tree meant to you. Until now." Elena took his hand gently. Loss turns our world into shadows. Art brings a bit of the light back. He cried. I did too. A box from the past. One rainy afternoon, I was cleaning out the old HOA storage closet. I found a cardboard box marked "Archives, Do Not Open." Inside were documents, some going back 20 years. I found Linda Craven's original proposal to ban murals. She'd written, "Neighborhood identity must remain sterile and professional." Sterile. That one word told me everything. We weren't just up against rules. We were up against an ideology, one that saw creativity as chaos and emotion as weakness. But now, Pineberry Lane was alive. And the walls told stories now. The fade begins. Elena's condition was terminal. We knew this. She never made a big deal about it. She just painted until her hands tired and listened until her hearing dimmed. She never complained. One morning, I woke to find her in her studio, fingers tracing the outline of her mural one last time. She didn't say anything, just rested her palm on the corner where she'd signed her name. I wrapped her in a blanket and held her there for a while. "I can't see it anymore," she said, "but I know every color by heart." Her final message. 2 days before she passed, she gave me an envelope. "Don't open this until you need it," she said. It was sealed in red wax with a paintbrush impression. When she was gone, I waited a few days, and then I opened it. Inside was a single sentence. "Please plant a tree where my mural is, and let it grow into something that will never fade." I cried for an hour. Then I gathered our neighbors, and we dug. A living mural where her mural once stood now grows a cherry blossom tree. At its base is a plaque with her name and a mosaic of tiles made from broken paint palettes, old brushes, and even some of the letters children had sent. Every spring, the tree blooms pink and white. And every spring, families come from all over to take photos, share stories, and read the poem engraved on the stone. She painted through the darkness, and in her colors, we saw the light. The neighborhood she left behind. Pineberry Lane is different now. The new HOA board is half artists, half veterans, and all human. We host quarterly art walks. We built a permanent gallery inside the old clubhouse. And in the center of it all stands a replica of her mural, preserved under glass. Sometimes kids ask me, "Did she really paint that?" And I smile. No, she painted us. The final note. On the anniversary of her passing, I received one last letter. It was from the National Urban Art Council. Dear Mr. Lane, we are renaming our Community Art Courage Award to the Elena Lane Award for Defiant Beauty. I stood before the tree that morning, coffee in hand, tears in my eyes. I hope you can see it, I whispered. And for a moment, in the wind that rustled the branches, I swear she answered, I always could.